down in 20 feet of water.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, everybody walked off.
Yeah.
But United Airlines, after that, fundamentally changed the way they trained their pilots and
Mm-hmm.
the protocol in the cockpit.
Yes.
And they made it company policy that there's no such thing as the captain's saving face.
Yeah.
You know, you are expected to put safety first,
Mm-hmm.
override those bad decisions.
Exactly. And that's an example where you gave psychological safety to people to do those things because you said now it's a rule. So now you gave them cover. See, because they want to, but they know that's a career suicide. Because the situation.
Well, it's a personal suicide.
Exactly.
Right?
But you would think we're gonna die, guys. We should, but
It's amazing how ingrained that stuff is.
well, neurology. I keep saying neurology because stuff like that situation. What happens if that person spoke out of turn and the situation turned out to be safe and not a problem, and that person is going to get sanctioned later on because that person must be made a lesson of, because cannot afford to have people speak out of turn, even if it's a life or death situation. That's that culture kind of mindset. Yes, Jacqueline?
And are we really talking here about like shaming, and every culture has their own way of shaming?
Yeah, so it's a little bit separate. But yeah, I mean, it would be shaming that person because you would be telling them the highest in the hierarchy in the cockpit, you don't know what you're doing. That would be what you're telling them. So you would be shaming them in front of others. And when that situation resolves and everything calm and you think, man, we've made it. No. Accounts need to be settled later. And that's why I said,
I was thinking, like, internally, are we actually wired from our growing from our childhood to feel discomfort when we think we could be crossing a threshold that would result in our being shamed, and like a fear of being shamed?
Well, yeah, I think the fear of being let me give an example. So say, for example, the person will not be able to say, for that fear, absolutely, it's that fear, but it's the fear of rejection as well, because that person is going to be rejected from the group. It's going to be, it's going to be ostracized, and eventually they're going to find themselves in a ticket counter doing some administrative work versus being in the cockpit. They were pilots, right? They were co-pilots. So yeah, exactly, that's fantastic.
What turned into in United Airlines was, and I'm speaking hypothetically, you go to the ticket counter if you didn't speak up.
Exactly.
That's what it turned
Exactly. And what people need in every concept, in every situation, they need the psychological safety to be able to speak up. If you create it, people will be able to speak up. But in the absence of that, the other things are in effect, which is the culture rules are in effect until a company rule came in and says, do not follow cultural rule, follow this rule. Then people will gladly do that because people want to, but they have a future, they have children, they have,
Listening to this, it just strikes me as a critical moment in that company's history and probably their safety record when they went, wow, we're not a space culture, but piloting is a quasi-military culture, and that's the next best thing.
Yeah.
That could be us.
Yeah, and military is very interdependent culture. Airlines, especially in the cockpit where there's safety, there's a hierarchy. Every time there is a dependency on the group is dependent on each other for safety and so on. Interdependence rules will apply. Will be the most comfortable, way, will be the most comfortable system for that, because now it's a survival issue and we have to depend on each other. So. Okay, do you guys want to take maybe a 5-minute break? Okay, let's take a 5-minute break and come back.
Just wanted to give you one little tidbit of information too. When you talk about the military being interdependent, they have I was in the military for 20 years.
Okay, So we were just talking about how sometimes, and I just want to give this idea to you guys, but maybe we can come back to it later if we have time. But it just occurred to me as I do this, as I meet so many people from diverse background, is that the conversation sometimes always comes up, actually not some, always comes up where what I'm realizing is that people sometimes are struggling with certain things in their work. And to me, after we talk about it for a while, it turns out that they are really in the wrong culture for them, like for who they are, for their way of, they're just in the wrong culture. And you know what? That never has been anything that we were taught. Like nobody has ever told us, hey, when you select companies and so on, they have to be the right culture for you. But I mean deep culture, not superficial culture or like organizational culture, but more is like, is this congruent with my culture? Because if you are working for a company where that is not a good culture for you, you're going to end up exerting so much work, so much effort for so little. And so I challenge you to use this information to also ask this question, challenge yourself. I find in one class, one lady said, in learning this, what I'm realizing is that I'm in the wrong profession. And I said, what? She said, yeah. She said, I find myself when I'm dealing with customers who are from rural areas, I'm in the flow. It's effortless for me. I'm like a superstar. I just, without any effort, I'm able to be successful. They're happy. I'm able to achieve results. But when I deal with people from the city, kind of non-rural agricultural customers, I find that it's so effortful. And before me saying anything, she said, I think I just need to seek this further. I need to explore this, and I need to figure out to put myself in the right culture. And I said, you're welcome. It's like this was not part of the intent of this training, but thank you for mentioning it because I want to tell other people. So as you talk about this, while it's not within the scope of this training, just keep that in mind because it might help you, because no one should have to work so hard for so long. That should be good in the beginning of your career. That should be when you're amassing skills and so on. And yes, doesn't mean that we want things to be easy. We just want them to be challenging in the right way. But we don't want to be wasting good energy on bad environments. Okay. I feel good about saying that. Okay. So we're gonna now go to. We're gonna talk about communication, about culture and communication styles. Okay. So first, let me give you a quick background. One, when you are dealing with people from different cultures, when I say dealing, I mean when you're engaging, I'm not saying dealing as in negative, but when you are engaging with people from different cultures, remember that certain things we learn from our own culture, we don't even pay attention to it when we talk. But when we talk, remember, research has said we usually do 5 things. We either declare things like, I now pronounce you husband and wife, or we are kicking off this project, we are beginning this test phase, or you're asserting something. I am taller than John. What's different about assertions is that these are either true or false. Like you can verify them. Like if I say I'm taller than John, when we are physically near each other, I should show that I am taller than John. Meanwhile, assessments are just judgments, my perspective, an opinion. This deadline is not feasible. It doesn't mean that that's the truth. It doesn't mean there are multiple truths. Here there are multiple perspectives. It could be somebody who could say, well, actually, we did 3 projects like that in the last 10 years in the same timeline. So those 2 are assessments, not assertions. And we make promises and we make requests. The issue is in these 2. Sometimes we mix these, assertions and assessments. And so when we talk to people from different cultures, as they are speaking, we sometimes can confuse those 2. We must, in our mind, pay attention, slow down, be mindful, and say, ask these questions. What is this? Are they declaring something? Are they trying to assert something? Is that just an opinion assessment? Is that a promise or is that a request? What do they want? What is this? So you got to be paying attention because people use language very differently, and these are different language, different speech moves, and you need to kind of, first of all, understand these building blocks. Okay, so example 1. The client requests a product, we assert that we have it in stock, that's verifiable, and promise to deliver it at a specific time at her office. When she receives it, the client will declare her satisfaction with the product or her satisfaction if the product, or her dissatisfaction if the product does not meet expectations.